Hello there, welcome back to my channel. I'm doing kind of a get ready with me video, but I'm also focusing particularly on two new releases that are said to be duplicates for some very high-end products. The first one is the Alter Ego Coastal Palette. This is said to replicate the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette, so I'm going to be using that. And then, of course, I am sure you have been seeing lots of reviews and demos of the new e.l.f. Halo Glow Blush Highlighter and Contour Tubes, we'll call them. They're not really sticks. So if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Now let's get started. All right, I'm going to be speeding through several steps of this because I actually have a conference call I need to be on in a very short time. So I'm just going to breeze through some things that aren't new, but I'm going to be using almost all drugstore products, like probably all but two products will be from the drugstore or affordable. So for foundation today, I am doing the combination of these two L'Oreal foundations. It's the True Match in W2.5 and the Infallible Fresh Wear in 425. And I mentioned this in a previous video that alone, I don't like either of these foundations, but together I love them. And I know some of you have said it looks like I'm applying a lot of foundation, but keep in mind I'm smushing, you know, a dot of foundation into my skin before I blend it. So you definitely do want to go in with a light hand. I'm using the BK Beauty 101 travel brush. All right, I'm gonna blend a little bit of that under my eyes just so my eyes don't look so scary while we do the next couple parts of the makeup. All right, real quickly, I'm going to apply the Milani eyeshadow primer. Now, Alter Ego does have an eyelid primer. It is really nice, but it's not quite as long wearing and as much hold as I need for my super oily eyelids. So I'm just using the Milani eyeshadow primer. All right, let's go to our palette. So this palette, the Coastal palette, is being compared to the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette. I never purchased that palette, so I don't have it to do side-by-side comparisons, but I'll put up on the screen the swatches that are online from that palette and compare it to the swatches from this one. You'll see there are similarities, but as I mentioned before when I reviewed the other Alter Ego palettes, I feel like the formulation as compared to my other Huda Beauty palettes is different. It's not quite as pigmented, not quite as saturated, I think, in some of the shimmers, but it's still a good palette. And at $20 versus $69, if you were like me and you saw the Huda palette and you were like, oh, there's several shades in there I know I would not wear very often, so therefore I don't feel like I want to spend $69 on it, then this might be the perfect solution for you. I also do have a discount code. I'll put that down below and across the screen, but it's 10% off. But I have really overall enjoyed this palette. So let's just go ahead and dig right in here. As you'll see, there isn't for me a brow bone highlight shade. So I'm just gonna go into one of my other Huda palettes that is my favorite that they don't make anymore. This is the Mercury Retrograde from Huda Beauty. But I'm just gonna use this cream shade right under the brow. Now let's dig into this palette. So today I want to do something that's more neutral. I feel like when I see people do tutorials with this palette, they always seem to dig into these like blue kind of, you know, crazy unicorn colors. And I do like that on occasion. But as I said, I have a conference call, so we got to keep it toned down. All right, I'm going to use my rougher brush number 15, and I'm going to first start off with this shade right here, which is called Brief. And I'm just going to put this through the crease. This is a very nice, cool tone, matte, taupey shade. Actually, I forgot, I've been enjoying doing the tape on the outside of my eye again. I know it's been a while, but I'm just using washi tape. You can use Scotch tape. You just want to make sure you take off some of the tackiness on the back of your hand first so that it doesn't pull your skin. But I like washi tape because you can actually see it and you can kind of get a better idea of how it's going to end up. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now let's go back with more of the Reef. When I'm in a hurry, I really like to do this method because I can be a little more sloppy, so to speak, going over the edge of that tape. And when I peel it off, I have a really nice line, and it also helps me create a lifted look without having to do winged liner. All right, so that is just that one color. So it built up nicely. All right, next we're gonna go in with this shade right here called Shallow. And I'm just gonna use this a little lower, still using that same brush. And we're just gonna deepen the outer corner, add just a hint of some warmth there, and then bring it kind of what's left through the crease. These shades are really nice. This is definitely a cool tone palette, but there's a couple of these brownish shades that I think help make it a little more wearable if you have warmer skin tones like I do. So there we go. Really pretty and neutral. All right, now in the outer corner, this shade right here is actually kind of, it feels like a cream formula, almost like Natasha Denona does. So I'm gonna do a combination of this kind of deep charcoal and this shade right here. So it's Cocoa and Haze. Let's just do a little Cocoa, and I'm switching to the rougher brush number 12. And you can see it's slightly darker than the shade we were previously using, but not overly so. And then I'm gonna go into this gray shade, this deep gray shade, and use this right into the roots of the lashes here and blend up just slightly. This is a really pretty color. I do like this. Has just a hint of almost some plum tones to it rather than being overly blue. Sometimes grays, you know, pull off, they come off a little more blue. I feel like this one has a little more plum, which I really like. And then I'm gonna wipe off that brush, just softly blend everything there in the outer corner. For our lid shade today, I wanna use this one. This is a taupe color. It is a little more, there's a little more glitter particles in this one. So I wanted to show you this one all by itself. I do feel like this works better over the top of a base or kind of more of a concentrated shimmer. But by itself, it is really pretty, but it is a little more of a glittery topper kind of shade. And then on the inner corner, here's another one kind of like that. This is the shade Shore. I do love this color, but I feel like the shimmers in this palette are the biggest difference between this and the HUDA. I feel like the HUDA palettes in general, she does really good shimmers, very pigmented. And these can be built up. You can see that, it's really nice, those two combined together, but it's a much softer, kind of, I mean, definitely more of like a glitter topper, but I think that's really pretty. On the lower lash line, I'm gonna use the Pixie Endless Silky Eye Pen, and this is in the shade London Fog. I have not used this in a long time, but it's a really nice kind of shimmery gray color. It's similar to the Urban Decay Mushroom Pencil, but just a little more gray, I think, than that one. And then on the upper lash line, I'm really torn. I feel like I need just a tiny little bit of some depth at the lash line. So I'm gonna go in with the Pixie Endless Silky Eye Pen in black. And I'm just going to add a tiny little bit here. And then I'm gonna go in with my rougher number 12 brush and a little bit of that deep gray shade and just use that tape as kind of my guide. So I'm just going right over the top of that liner and blending it in. All right, let's peel off the tape. Isn't that nice? It's so fun. All right, cleaning up under the eyes with the almond oil. And you will get a little bit of fallout from these shadows, but it's not terrible. And as long as you tap off your brush, I feel like it's about like you get with most eyeshadows. I'm gonna use a little bit of the Revlon Color Stay. This is the 5-in-1 concealer in the shade 001, which is kind of a yellow neutralizing color. So more of kind of a color corrector shade. And then for concealer, I have been testing out the L'Oreal, this is not new, but the Age Perfect Radiant Concealer, and I have the shade 215. So let's just pop on a little bit of that. It is a nice kind of, I would say, light to medium coverage. It's hydrating. It's still kind of forming some opinions, but I do think it's a good one from the drugstore. I'll use my BK Beauty A506 brush just to blend that in. Isn't that pretty? It is a little radiant, so of course I will end up powdering this down a little bit, but I'm gonna let that sit. And now let's talk about some contour. So stay tuned to the end because I will do some side-by-side comparisons with these versus the Charlotte Tilbury and the Tarte. I have two shades in the contour. I have light medium and fair light. And you can see there's quite a bit of a difference between the tones of these. So they have a sponge tip applicator, and I'll show you just kind of dotted on the face. Do you see how cool that one is? Even though I'm kind of a little pale at the moment, I feel like it's almost too gray of a tone. But if I go in with a little dot of the light medium kind of with it, I'll show you that blended out. I'm using the BK Beauty 107. Now these do set very quickly. And I feel like that's part of kind of what I'm seeing of reviews online, especially the blushes. You really need to work in sections and you want to tap on. So the contour, I feel like, is easier to apply directly to the face because it can get out of control quickly. They are quite pigmented. So if you tap on too much, you'll be in trouble. So you want to go in with a real light hand. You can always layer more, but you can see I'm just tapping in, and it does provide a really nice contour. But I do feel like there's a learning curve. If you've never worked with cream liquid contour, like, it's pretty much set. So you do need to work fast with these. So overall, it did create a really nice finish and contoured look. And I feel like by tapping it in, I did not lift my foundation. For blush, I have two shades. I have Magic Hour and I have Rose You Slay. Now, Magic Hour is quite light, and I'm gonna show you, this is definitely one you wanna apply on the back of your hand and then to your cheeks. If you apply it to your cheeks, you're gonna get some splotchiness. Now, the two of these, side by side, I think are beautiful and blended together. They're really pretty. So those are the two there. I'm going to use my rougher brush number 04, and I'm actually going to first kind of blend them with my fingers. You can see blended together what a beautiful shade they make. And then I'm going to take my brush and tap onto the cheeks. This seems to be a little wetter formula than the contour shades. I don't know, maybe it's not. But there is a ton of glow, and these do set very quickly. So that Rose Slay All Day, it's very pigmented, so cut directly on your cheeks, you might regret it. So, I mean, look at how much color. Whoa, that's like even a little too much for me. So go on the back of your hand for sure, and then apply to your cheeks. I'm just gonna take my contour brush, kind of tap over that just to kind of blend it in. But they are very glowy. They look beautiful, but they can highlight texture just a little bit. So that's something to be aware of. All right, and then we're gonna add a little bit of the highlighter shade. Same story. I feel like this goes better on the back of your hand. It's just hard to control how much is coming out of that applicator. And you want to just gently tap this in, because you don't want to be rubbing it. It will lift your foundation if you're not careful. So that's really pretty. And I have the shade Candlelight, which is the lightest shade. Really pretty. Now I need to powder. So I'm gonna quickly powder with the NYX Mineral Matte powder, and then under the eyes, I'm going to use a little bit of the Maybelline Fit Me. This is in translucent. For brows, I'm going to use the NYX Micro Brow Pencil in Ash Brown. It's just the one I have open. And then I'm going to throw on some of the GenSee. This is not drugstore, but they sent me this arch brow, and I've just been enjoying the combination of these two. So let's fill those in, and then we'll finish up with some mascara and lips. Okay, so I fast forwarded through a few steps. I'll catch it up real quick. For my mascara combination, I used the L'Oreal Voluminous Primer and this new one I'm trying from Maybelline. This is the Falsies Surreal. So I did that on the upper lashes, and then because this one does smudge a bit on me, I used the Maybelline Snapscara on the lower lashes. Now around the edge of my lips, I did use my MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot, the second item that is not drugstore. Sorry about that. And then before we finish up with the lips, you may notice this eye looks a little different than this one, just in the outer corner. I'm going back with the BK Beauty 204 brush and a little more of this dark gray here, this kind of creamy shade. I'm going to just put a hint of this right here. I like to do this after sometimes my mascara is on. I'm looking forward with my hooded eyes. I can see that I just need a little more of that shade brought up in the outer corner. Add a little more here. I'm tapping my brush, but this is really kind of more of like a creamy consistency. So that's the good thing about this particular shadow, is it's not gonna give you a bunch of fallout, so you can do this step after you have your concealer on and everything. And then I'm just gonna take my blender brush and make sure that's all softly blended. And before we do inner corner highlight, let's go back to the lips. For my lip combination, I'm gonna use the Revlon Color Stay Longwear Lip Liner in the shade Mauve. I think this is still available. It's really pretty. And then one of you told me about this particular shade of L'Oreal lipstick. It's 135 Ballerina Shoes. And oh my goodness, this is such a beautiful frosty pink shade. I do hate the scent of L'Oreal lipsticks, and this has it, but I'm going to top it with a little bit of gloss. This is the Essence Extreme Shine Gloss, and this is the shade Gold Dust. And this was sent to me by one of my subscribers. This really doesn't have any scent, so I feel like it can kind of cover up the L'Oreal scent. All right, let's do this. To finish up the eyes, I'm gonna go back to our palette and take this shade right here, which is Shore, and I'm going to use this, let's use this wet. So I'm using my E30 from Sigma. I'm gonna use the Maybelline Fix Spray, and let's just apply this wet on the inner corner. It's interesting because wet, you can see it picks up a lot more of the pink tones in that shadow. And then I'm just gonna take my finger, let's just go back in with a little bit of this taupe shade. Just kind of want to touch over where those two meet. Add a little extra sparkle there, why not? Okay, so here is kind of the finished look here. And as far as the face goes though, I feel like I lost most of the glow from the e.l.f. highlighter and the blush. So let's go back with just a little bit of the highlighter shade, and let's just see how this works over the top of makeup. This could be dangerous, but let's just see. I'm just going to tap a little bit. And again, this is the shade Candlelight. So let's just go over the top of the powdered finished look and see how this goes. Okay, so I feel like on camera it looks okay. In person, you can kind of see where it stops and starts. So I'm a little disappointed in that. It doesn't seem to mesh very well once you've powdered, and I feel like it kind of picked up a little bit of my cheek color that I had going on there. So let's just kind of take my bronzer brush and then let's go back with our blush brush. Ooh, this could be scary. We're just experimenting here, right? So I feel like that helped it kind of blend just a little bit better. All right, I want just a little more brightness on the inner corner. So I'm gonna go in with this Maybelline Master Chrome Metallic Highlighter, and this is the shade 250. I'll put in the description box the actual shade name. Okay, now here really is our finished look after those extra steps.